Everyone knows him for the golden mask, but in life Tutankhamun wasn't the most powerful pharaoh. He was a very young boy placed on the throne at the most fragile moment of the 18th dynasty, when Egypt was still trying to recover from the religious revolution of Amarna. He was even born with a name that captures that chaos, Tutankhamun, living image of Aten, because he grew up in the shadow of the cult imposed by Akhenaten. For decades, scholars debated who his father really was, but genetic analyses published in 2010 suggest his father was most likely the king from tomb KV55, often identified as Akhenaten, and his mother was the so-called younger lady from KV35, herself a daughter of Amenhotep III and Tai. In other words, Tutankhamun may have been born from a union between very close relatives, something that can help explain his fragile health. When he becomes pharaoh, he's only about 8 or 9 years old. And in an Egypt this complex, that means one thing: real day-to-day power ends up in the hands of the strongest adults around him. Two names matter most, the Vizier and the General Hormheb. The boy is the face of kingship, but the machinery of the state is driven by advisors. And because of that, what Tutankhamun does is often the result of a larger strategy: to reunite a divided country, repair the religious crisis, calm the temples, and restore political stability. The clearest sign of this turning point is his name change, from Tutankhamun to Tutankhamun, living image of Ammonius. And the queen changes her name too, becoming Ankhesenamun. This isn't an aesthetic detail, it's a political announcement. During his reign, the restoration of traditional cults is promoted, and historical sources describe decrees and temple restorations, repairing divine images that had been neglected or damaged during the Amarna period. In those years, the court abandons Amarna, and administration shifts back toward Memphis and Thebes, pulling Egypt back to its traditional center of gravity. Tutankhamun's private life feels almost wrapped in silence, but a few details hit hard. His wife is Ankhesenamun, likely a close relative within the same royal line. They will not produce a living heir, and inside the tomb archaeologists found 2 tiny mummified fetuses, often interpreted as daughters who were stillborn or premature. It makes the end of his dynasty even more tragic. And that empty line of succession becomes a political bomb. When the king dies, the queen is young and childless, and the court is forced into a dangerous choice. And here comes one of the most unbelievable episodes in all Egyptian history. Hittite chronicles record a letter from a widowed Egyptian queen asking the Hittite king to send her a prince to marry, so he could become pharaoh of Egypt. That's almost unthinkable in the New Kingdom, where a royal queen was not supposed to marry a foreigner. Encyclopedia Britannica reports that the Hittite annals link the dead husband's name to Nebkheperur, which matches Tutankhamun's throne name, and describe the request for a prince to rule Egypt. The prince who is sent, connected to the so-called Sananza affair, dies on the journey, and from there, everything collapses. The queen's identity is debated, but Ankhesenamun is often seen as a strong candidate. She was widowed, young, and without an heir. But let's go back to the question that always ignites the comments: how did Tutankhamun die? For decades, the assassination theory dominated: a blow to the head, a conspiracy, poison. The problem is that the mummy was treated aggressively already in the 1920s, when researchers tried to remove the mask and jewels glued by resins, causing damage and confusion in later interpretations. In 2005, a CT scan of the mummy greatly weakened the fatal blow to the head theory. Scientific reporting at the time said there was no evidence of a lethal cranial trauma consistent with murder. That doesn't mean the mystery is solved, but it does mean one of the most famous trails loses much of its strength. After that, a more realistic and less Hollywood explanation gained ground: a fragile body, already under stress, hit by physical problems and disease. A study published in JAMA, 2010, concluded that a combination of bone disorders, including avascular necrosis, together with a malarial infection is among the most likely explanations for the young king's death. It also connects his possible difficulty walking to the many walking sticks found in the tomb. In other words, Tutankhamun may not have been the athletic hero of royal propaganda. He may have been a king who, despite the powerful imagery, suffered physically for real. And then there's another crucial detail: a fracture in the leg. The CT scan and medical analyses fueled debate about an injury that, in a world without antibiotics, could quickly spiral into infection, fever, and deadly complications. Some reconstructions even suggest a hunting or chariot accident, because pharaohs were often portrayed doing royal activities like hunting and driving chariots. National Geographic has discussed that one hypothesis after the CT scan included a chariot-related accident, though it remains only one possibility among many, and that's the most accurate line for the video. We don't have a final verdict. But today the strongest explanations don't require an assassin in the shadows. Fragile health, disease, trauma, and bad luck can be enough. So why did Tutankhamun become the most famous pharaoh in history? Because his tomb, KV62, discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter, was relatively small and, compared to other royal burials, partly spared from total looting. The amount of objects found was shocking, not just gold, but an entire universe of Egyptian royalty. Ceremonial beds, chariots, statues, amulets, everyday objects, weapons, textiles. Basically, a snapshot of ancient Egypt sealed for millennia. And when a story like that explodes in the world press, another legend is born too, the accursed deaths, coincidences, fear, myth. But the real force is the narrative power of the discovery. A boy king who wasn't a great in life becomes immense in death, because his treasure speaks for him. Today, Tutankhamun is the perfect symbol for your channel, mystery, science, myth, and truth, chasing all of them, non-stop.